rains beginning to fall, marking the end of the first season's digging, a single hominid tooth was uncovered. On the basis of this tooth, and the two previously reported by Zdansky, Black decided to announce the discovery of a new fossil hominid. He called it Sinanthropus, Chinaman. Black was eager to show the world his discovery. In the course of his travels with his newly found tooth...
That's not the proper nomenclature, dude.
What? What?
Chinaman?
Chinaman? Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm not sure how to say that either. It looks like it's either Sinanthropus or Sinanthropus. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a Big Lebowski reference.
Oh, I missed it.
Sorry.
Totally missed it. Okay, so Black discovered that not everyone shared his enthusiasm for Sinanthropus. For example, at the annual meeting of the American Association of Anatomists in 1928, some of the members heavily criticized Black for proposing a new genus on so little evidence. But Black kept making the rounds, showing the tooth to Alish Hrdlicka in the United States, and then journeying to England, where he met Sir Arthur Keith and Sir Arthur Smith Woodward. At the British Museum, Black had casts made of the Beijing Man molars for distribution to other workers. This is the kind of propaganda work necessary to bring a discovery to the attention of the scientific community. Even for a scientist, political skills are not unimportant.
I think you were calling him Hrdlicka before.
I was.
Yeah.
Somebody corrected me.
Hrdlicka?
Alish, yeah.
Alish
and Nick, the biological robot, pointed this out to me.
Okay.
He says it's probably Alish Hrdlicka.
Hrdlicka.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But it does look like Hrdlicka. He just says that you probably pronounce that with a CH in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so on returning to China, Black kept in close touch with the excavations for months, turning up nothing, but Black wrote to Keith on December 5th. It would seem that there is a certain magic about the last few days of the season's work, for again, 2 days before it ended, Bolin found the right half of the lower jaw of Sinanthropus with the 3 permanent molars in situ. But now a financial problem loomed. The Rockefeller Foundation grant that supported the digging would run out in April of 1929. So, in January, Black wrote the directors, asking them to support the excavations by creating a Cenozoic research laboratory. In April, Black received the funds he desired. Just a few years before, Rockefeller Foundation officials had actively discouraged Black from becoming too involved in paleoanthropological research. Now they were backing him to the hilt, setting up an institute specifically devoted to searching for the remains of fossil human ancestors. So why had the Rockefeller Foundation changed its attitude towards Black and his work? This question bears looking into, because the financial contribution of foundations would turn out to be vital to human evolution research carried out by scientists like Black. Foundation support would also prove important in broadcasting the news of the finds and their significance to the waiting world. As Warren Weaver, a scientist and Rockefeller Foundation official, wrote in 1967, "In a perfect world, an idea could be born and nourished and developed and made known to everyone, criticized and perfected, and put to good use without the crude fact of financial support ever entering into the process. Seldom, if ever, in the practical world in which we live, does this occur." For Weaver, biological questions were of the highest importance. He regarded the highly publicized particle accelerators and space exploration programs as something akin to scientific fads. He added, "The opportunities not yet rigorously explored lie in the understanding of the nature of living things. It seemed clear in 1932, when the Rockefeller Foundation launched its quarter-century program in this area, that the biological and medical sciences were ready for a friendly invasion by the physical sciences. The tools are now available for discovering, on the most disciplined and precise level of molecular actions, how man's central nervous system really operates, how he thinks, learns, remembers, and forgets. Apart from the fascination of gaining some knowledge of the nature of the mind-brain-body relationship, the practical values in such studies are potentially enormous. Only thus may we gain information about our behavior of this sort that can lead to wise and beneficial control." Like, got dark quick there at the end. It thus becomes clear that at the same time the Rockefeller Foundation was channeling funds into human evolution research in China, it was in the process of developing an elaborate plan to fund biological research with a view to developing methods to effectively control human behavior. Black's research into Beijing Man must be seen within this context in order to be properly understood. Over the past few decades, science has developed a comprehensive cosmology that explains the origin of human beings as the culmination of a 4 billion year process of chemical and biological evolution on this planet, which formed in the aftermath of the Big Bang, an event that marked the beginning of the universe some 16 billion years ago. The Big Bang theory of the origin of the universe, founded upon particle physics and astronomical observations, suggesting we live in an expanding cosmos, is thus inextricably connected with the theory of the biochemical evolution of all life forms, including human beings. The major foundations, especially the Rockefeller Foundation, provided key funding for the initial research supporting this materialistic cosmology, which has, for all practical purposes, pushed God and the soul into the realm of mythology, at least in the intellectual centers of modern civilization. All of this is quite remarkable when one considers that John D. Rockefeller's charity was initially directed towards Baptist churches and missions. Raymond D. Fosdick, an early president of the Rockefeller Foundation, said that both Rockefeller and his chief financial advisor, Baptist educator Frederick T. Gates, were inspired by deep religious conviction. In 1913, the present Rockefeller Foundation was organized. The trustees included a bunch of names I won't read here, but for medical research in the University of Chicago, former presidents of Harvard, and the president of Chase National Bank. Alongside this new foundation, other Rockefeller charities continued to operate. At first, the Rockefeller Foundation concentrated its attention on public health, medicine, agriculture, and education, avoiding anything controversial. Thus, the foundation began to distance itself from religion, particularly the Baptist Church. Exactly why this happened is difficult to say. Perhaps Rockefeller was coming to realize that his fortune was founded on exploiting the advances of modern science, or perhaps it was the increasing role that science was beginning to play in the objects of traditional charitable giving, such as medicine. But whatever the reason, Rockefeller began to staff his foundation with scientists, and the giving policies reflected this change. Evan Gates, the former Baptist educator, seemed to be changing his tune. He wanted to create a non-sectarian university in China, but he noted that the missionary bodies at home and abroad were distinctly and openly and even threateningly hostile to it, to it as tending to infidelity. And furthermore, the Chinese government wanted control, an idea that the foundation could not support. Charles Eliot, who had overseen the Harvard Medical School in Shanghai, proposed a solution, a medical college, which would serve as an opening to the rest of Western science. Here, mechanistic science shows itself a quiet but nevertheless militant ideology, skillfully promoted by the combined effort of scientists, educators, and wealthy industrialists, with a view towards establishing worldwide intellectual dominance. The medical college strategy outlined by Eliot worked. The Chinese government approved establishment of the Beijing Union Medical College under foundation auspices. Meanwhile, Dr. Wallace Buttrick, director of Rockefeller's newly created China Medical Board, negotiated with the Protestant mission hospitals already in China and agreed to provide financial support for them, bribing them effectively. In 1928, the Rockefeller Foundation and other Rockefeller charities underwent changes to reflect the growing importance of scientific research. All programs relating to the advance of human knowledge were shifted to the Rockefeller Foundation, which was reorganized into 5 divisions: international health, medical sciences, natural sciences, social sciences, and the humanities. The change reached right to the top, with Dr. Max Mason, a scientist himself, taking over as president. Mason, who was a mathematical physicist, was formerly president of the University of Chicago. Mason emphasized the structural unity involved in the new orientation of the program, and it was not to be 5 programs, each represented by a division of the foundation. It was to essentially be one program directed to the general problem of human behavior with the aim of control through understanding.
Weird. What is the deal with that?
Black's Beijing Man research therefore took place within the larger framework of the explicitly stated goal of the Rockefeller Foundation, which reflected the implicit goal of big science, control by scientists of human behavior.
I did not see it going there.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
Yeah, so I think they're pointing out that with the Rockefeller Foundation and other institutes like the Carnegie Institution, these people are interested in formulating a worldview, whether it's a giant conspiracy or not. They view it as we have this new paradigm, everything is science, and we live in this mechanistic universe. And if we can fully understand all the scientific principles beneath the mechanistic universe, we can better understand ourselves and control our behavior.
Okay, that's a slightly lighter way of looking at it.
Yeah. But it does, again, you get this idea of control. And I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting because what they're pointing out here also is that this anthropological research that was happening was at first the Rockefeller Institute was like, no, we're not interested in that. But all of a sudden they become interested in it because there was this big shift in how they organized their foundation. And there was a similar shift in what their goals were. And suddenly they start funding these kinds of things. Specifically because they're like, what are human origins? Because we need to understand ourselves better so that we can control humans better. Yeah. So,
yeah, but there's like there's this built-in bias towards what the outcome is because they need it to all tie in to the theories of the origin of the universe and all this stuff. It needs to be this nicely, clean progression of everything. And it's like, okay, we've got the basic understanding now. We know how it all happened.
Yeah.
Now we just need to keep uncovering the details, which is like, this is what I'm always complaining about with the whole particle physics thing. I'm just like, man.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what's happening is that you can see the instigation of a new foundation of thought, a new cosmology of ideas. And it's basically, it's replacing religion. We've talked about this many times.
Right.
But the idea is that this is all based in science. But for the average person, it's basically a religion in the sense that they don't do the science. They don't really understand all the science. And so it's, they believe in it because that's what they're told by authorities, right? It's a belief system. Yeah. The concept here is that it's backed up by people who know what they're doing, which is effectively a priesthood. Just a new kind of priesthood.
Huh. Interesting.
All right. An historic find in a cold-blooded campaign. So with the financial backing of the Rockefeller Foundation for the Cenozoic Research Laboratory secured, Black resumes his travels for the purpose of promoting Beijing Man. He then returned to China, where work was proceeding slowly, with no new major Sinanthropus finds reported. Enthusiasm seemed to be waning among the workers. But then, on the 1st of December, at the very end of the seizing, Pei Wenzhong made a historic find. Pei later wrote, "I encountered the almost complete skull of Sinanthropus. The specimen was embedded partly in loose sands and partly in a hard matrix so that it was possible to extricate it with relative ease." He then rode 25 miles on a bicycle to the Cenozoic Research Laboratory where he presented the skull to Black.
Hammerhead.
Yeah. The discovery made Black a media sensation. In September of 1930, Sir Grafton Elliott Smith arrived in Beijing to inspect the site of the discovery and examine the fossils. During Smith's stay, Black primed him for a propaganda blitz in America on behalf of Beijing Man. Smith then departed and apparently did his job well. In December, Black wrote an extremely candid letter to Dr. Henry Houghton, director of the Beijing Medical School, who was vacationing in America. Black said, "If I blushed every time I thought of the cold-blooded advertising campaign I thought of and GES had carried through, I'd be permanently purple." Black's newly won fame ensured continued access to Rockefeller Foundation funds. Black wrote to Sir Arthur Keith, We had a cable from Sir Elliot Smith yesterday, so he is evidently safe home after his strenuous trip. He characteristically has not spared himself in serving the